inking in real time. I will do my best to stay on camera and keep the cool conversation going. Okay, so this is a commission, so I can show you some of the figures because I know you are saying that I'm showing a ton of background, no figures on my social. That's because I can't show it, you guys. Okay, so some secrets need to be kept secrets. Okay, so yep, here we go. I'm not good at talking and inking, but I'll do my best. Real-time inking is real slow, so if you're here, I appreciate it. And the contour. I'm just starting for the day, so this is kind of also a warm-up for me. So while I'm doing this commission, and some of you know this is Adventist, and I am working on, it's a smaller board. Okay, it's a smaller board, and it's not a DC art board, traditional DC art board. It's just a regular art board. And oh gosh, I do this all the time. I stray from the subject. So back to, thanks for being here. I am work in progress, you guys. Thanks for being here. You for being so patient with me as I'm warming up right now. And being so patient is to watch these real-time inking videos. I'm much better at demonstrating than like really verbally describing how I approach my work and what I do and how I do it. So I'm not very good at like teaching that way. So thanks for being here. I appreciate your patience, and maybe you can learn by watching, and I will see if I can entertain you with, guess what we're doing today as a bonus. I will entertain you with a little bit of story time. Oh, yes. So I have, everyone has stories to tell. But so there's going to be a little story time at the end. So you have to sit through this torture before you get to the fun. It's going to be a convention story. So I have not all convention stories, but I have a bunch of fun stories to tell. And they're all positive. I'm not trying to like throw shade or be uncool to anyone. So these are just fun stories. If you're looking for drama or sensation, you know this is not the channel for it. I'm neither dramatic or sensational. So yeah, I have a fun story at the end, so hang around. That is my little teaser. So, okay, let's talk about what's going on right now on this page. So this is Adventist, and it's beautiful. One thing that I haven't talked about, I don't think I have, I may have, I don't know, I may have mentioned it in passing, but I don't remember what I've said, you guys. It's just chatting as I go. So, something I haven't talked about, I've talked about brush, pens, ink, erasers, bunch of other stuff that you probably don't even have any interest in. But here is something else that has crossed my mind, but I don't think I've dedicated a video to it. Another key player in inking is if you're a professional inker and you ink over other pencilers, other artists, and not necessarily your own pencils. If you ink yourself, this does not necessarily apply because you get to choose this key player, which is the paper you work on, the board. Your tools, your inking tools, your brush, your ink, all that plays a role, and you, of course, and your whatever practice you need to put in to manage those tools. And the other key player that you really have no control over is the paper. You get what you get because pencilers like different papers. Some are a little more, some prefer smooth, some preferred more textured paper. So you really have no say, not really. I mean, unless you work closely with that penciler and they are, they're not, real particular about the type of paper. And I know that with textured and smooth boards, they all have different drawbacks and benefits. So it's just it's not necessarily what's better, what's worse. Just like everything else, it's personal preference. So as an inker, whatever your penciler use is what you have to work with. So that is something that you have to learn as a professional to manage. And this commission is, as with I think a lot of commissions, it's on whatever different types of boards. Like it could just be like a more, I don't want to say generic, but not necessarily anything that is for like the standards of comic boards for publishing. It might be something that they use for convenience or whatever they bring to or happen to have at conventions or whatever other factors they're playing with. But it's not always going to be the best quality paper for inking, that is. It might be great for pencils because maybe it has, like I said, it's a preferred surface or happens to be economical or whatever else is kind of the deciding factor. So yeah, so there's another key player that we haven't really talked about, which is the paper. And my advice is there are times where, honestly, even the lower quality paper could be fun to play with because it might have textures that you can use with your brush, or it might give you texture that allows you to like maybe explore and play around a little bit more if you want to be a little more adventurous. And it is definitely something that you can have fun with. And so right now, like I said, I'm kind of just warming up for the day. So I do jump around quite a bit. I think I just had a ton of coffee, so I've got a little bit of the jitters too. Okay. So yeah, paper. You have right now this right here. It's not. It's like really thin. It's really flimsy. The surface is really loose. So let's see. I recommend for versatility. You do have a little experience with all the different tools, because sometimes, like, for me, if the paper surface isn't great, like if it's kind of a looser surface, it shreds easily, bleeds easily. That's where, like, a gentle tool, I've tried a micron with this too, and what happens is the line just kind of like, even the finest, the lines just spread out. So you're, especially, you're gonna lose a lot of delicateness. Like, there's a lot of cross hatching, really fine lines in here. You're gonna lose those fine lines because they're gonna bleed together, and it's just gonna look a little bit muddy. So even the finest micron that I have, I tried, and that's what happened. So I'm going in with a brush, which, you know, for me is a tool I'm already comfortable with, and I find it to be quite handy when it comes to inking questionable paper. So yeah, my advice is, like, maybe get a little experience with all the different tools, because you might need them based on whatever curveball type of paper you're gonna get. I am right now, like, just barely touching the paper, and that's with a brush, and that's what's giving me these delicate lines. So that is my advice, is that have a little experience, because sometimes you kind of need to use different tools, or you can choose not to do it. I don't know. Okay, so yep, paper. We don't talk about it much, but it plays a huge role. And when I start on a new, like, new project or a new piece, or work on, you know, pencil I haven't worked with before, and I really don't know what kind of paper they're working on, even if it's like, you know, like the better quality comic art board, you still don't really know, even if it's, you know, from publishers or pencilers themselves, and they've used that paper for, like, and it's reliable for them. You really don't know how it's going to handle ink. So I like to test it. I test, like, little corners or little areas where I know it's going to be, you know, blacked out, or before, you know, you hit faces or any delicate lines, because once that bleeds, it's not really pretty to fix. It's fine, but it doesn't look cool on the original. So yeah, you really need to test your paper if you're not sure what you're working with. And then sometimes, you know, that's really how I decide what tool I'm going to use for that particular either project or page or cover. So yeah, this is, like I said, this is a commission, and it is, in some sense, it's not the best paper. It's really flimsy, and it bleeds quite a bit. And also the other thing that, like, these kind of like the, I don't know how else to describe it, but like the really, it's almost like, you know, construction paper from elementary school. This is for the older kids who remember construction paper from elementary school. It's has a little bit of like a rough surface to it, a little bit of sandy, a little sandy. Okay, sorry. It's a little sandy. Like me, it's a little sandy. So yeah, I kind of went, her hair, she's in front of her, so I need to make sure that's clear. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. So it's a little sandy, and with that, you can play around with texture. Like you can get little dry brush going. Right now my brush is a little too loaded. It might not do the dry brush, but it is fun to play with. You can get like maybe get rid of some of this ink. And this is also how I keep the brush tip like sharp, especially when I've been using it for a while. Just keep that point, rotate, tap, 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 rotate, unload some ink on something else, paper towel, whatever, to make sure if you want to keep your point sharp as you're working, because they can like split up or fray. So keep that point, rotate, rotate, rotate. I don't really need that point right now, so I'm just doing this to try to get it dry enough so I can do a little dry brush thing going. So sometimes dry brush I do. Okay, yep. Quick. So yeah, this has a little bit of a rough surface, so I can play around with dry brush. So it's kind of dry brush friendly. So let's say her glove is like leather, maybe it's textured leather. And everyone does dry brush differently, I assume. But right now my brush has a lot of ink on it, but I want to think that there's a little less ink down here. So if I go backwards, it never works when you're trying to demonstrate, you guys. So sometimes I go backwards, I'll get more of the drier effect on the drier side because the ink is pulling towards the tip. So sometimes it works that way too. Test it out though. Okay. So it's somewhat dry. I still have quite a bit of, for dry brush, I like my brush like really. You can also use ink that has maybe been sitting out for a while and has evaporated, so the ink itself is a little bit thicker. I'll give you a better dry brush effect. Okay, so I'm gonna go back in and I don't need a lot of dry brush anywhere. Okay, so let's just go move it to there. Never works when you're demonstrating. Okay. You can't really see, but it is kind of dry brushy. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure I strayed off my subject again. But okay. What was I saying? Right, texture of the paper. Okay. So yeah, I jump around. So we did a little bit of contouring with a little bit of fine lines. We talked a little bit about paper and paper texture. And like I said, if you're a professional inker, you're going to get a variety of paper surface to work on, and it is kind of part of your job to figure out how to work around whatever surprises you get. And it's you're rarely, almost never, you're never going to get exactly what you want. You're not going to get the perfect paper. It's like life in the perfect day. Sometimes it happens, but most of the time, not likely. So you have to figure out how to make the best of it. And just as if it was nothing. Yes. Cruise like it's not even a factor. Okay, so, and that comes with experience. And not even like the good paper. You can still, don't be surprised if there's still like different random spots that are not going to be as like perfect. You can have great paper, but you can have an area that's going to shred on you or bleed or tear. And you will, like the professional that you are, you'll figure out how to adjust for it or correct it. And okay, so like I said, my brush is overloaded with ink. I'm overloaded with caffeine. It's all good. Okay. And the best advice I can give for, okay, that's her hair strand. Inking with a brush is that you really have to keep your hand light. Like even on the thickest lines, you can't like death grip it. You're not gonna get smooth lines. You're just gonna have to let it flow. And the warm up for that might just be like, just rotate your wrist and let it be loose, or just do like little spiral and just let your hand relax and just do some freestyle stuff just to loosen up that wrist, so you're not trying so hard to like sculpt or manipulate the lines. You just kind of have to let it flow. And the hardest thing to do, relax. And that will give you better results, and you're not gonna be all like, you know, wrist locked, and you're gonna be so like, try not to be tense. I know. Okay, so that's the best advice I can give you for brush inking. If you need to warm up, do so. And use whatever you feel comfortable using. So it's not like you have to be a brush inker, or you have to be a nib inker or a tech pen or whatever. If it's your own pencils, or if you work with a penciler who you have a good relationship with, you know, you can always just use whatever you want, whatever works for you. And my other advice, when you're starting on like a new project, or you're working with a pencil you've not worked with before, I recommend, I don't know, talk to each other. My goodness. Have like, communication is great. No, I think at least like know what they're looking for, or what they're expecting, or how they work, or you know, how much of like of an input they want from you. It's, you know, like for you to be able to contribute in your own style, or have the freedom to do that, or do they just want you to like just don't change anything, keep it exactly as like they penciled it? Just these little things, like I think it would be worth talking about before, you know, just to have some good communication going, just to know what they're expecting and how much freedom, or you know, if there's like, maybe you don't want any kind of like not too much wiggle room. Maybe you want exactly like the type pencils, so you can just make pretty lines and not really do much interpretation. Or do they want like a true collaboration where they put down like a little bit of loose stuff or just gesture some things and for you to kind of finish their thought? So it's always good to find out, like maybe there's something that they absolutely love in inks or something they absolutely hate. It would be worth talking about. I think that would help a lot. And let's see. Yeah, like I said, paper, it comes down to what they're comfortable working on, and you kind of adjust accordingly. That's my statement. Adjust accordingly. So, yeah, I think that's kind of like the subject for today, like being, if there was even like a solid subject. Really, I'm just kind of rambling as I'm inking, as I'm working. And, oh yes, I don't know how long have we been recording? Let me see. I will I hope I'm staying on camera. I will add at the end here a little story time. Just reminding you so you guys don't stray. It's a silly story. It's not like a great story. I'm not a writer. I'm an inker. I'll do my best though. I do have a bunch of cute little stories. Like I said, I joke that, oh, one day I'm going to do a little tell-all book from all these stories I've collected over the years. Been a few years. And they're all, like I said, fun stories. I'm not looking to do anything or be anything like sensational or scandalous. Okay. All right. So a lot of these lines are kind of like spreading out a little bit, a little fuzzy. And the more ink I have on there, and that's the other thing the paper will do too, is if you have like, you know, kind of iffy paper, sometimes it takes the ink and just the ink soaks right in. So it's not just like drying on the surface, it's like kind of wicking the ink outwards. And once you kind of get to know like what kind of paper you have to adjust accordingly. So you might have to put down like a finer line than you really want, and give it time and watch that puppy grow. You might have to come back if it, you know, if like I said, if it's sort of like give it time to do its thing, and then you just kind of come back and touch up if you need to. So it's always, for me anyway, it's always better to go a little bit finer because you can come in and make it thicker. And it's not the worst thing in the world to have to come in and thin out a line. If it gets like that one, if it beads up and just grows like a little too fat, I mean, you can always come in and touch it up with the whites. And the slower you go, I think it has more time to really draw ink out from your brush and really like just pull out more into the paper and really kind of make that line a lot thicker than you initially want. So if you really want it thin, go fast, real wispy. Like it barely like touched it. Barely. When I say barely, I mean like I'm practically like just hovering over the surface, and is just wicking it right out of the brush. In a way, this is kind of like the fun part of working traditionally over digital. It's a little nerdy adventure. So you really don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's kind of fun surprises. And it's definitely kind of like, so nerdy. It's definitely kind of like a game. So, yeah, that's how I get my jollies, y'all. So you really don't always know what you're going to get. And even like I said, the whole sheet might behave a little differently from one area to the next. So yeah, so there's that. Doop, 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 doop. Okay, at what point do I tell the story? I know. Let me see how many minutes we're in here. Okay, let me just finish a little bit of her jacket so you at least get to see how. Doing a little more fun stuff than just contour lines. Is it weird that I think other people hold their tools weird? I know, weird. That went, wait, okay. And once you're done, you're gonna come back and look at everything, and really what I do is sometimes I am way lighter than I realize. I mean, a little too delicate. You know, inking like a girl. A little too delicate, so I do come back and beef up a few things just to kind of make it a little more, give it a little more pop, a little more lively. Otherwise, you're risking making it all a little too flat, a little too bland, too boring. Sometimes a little pop, a little beefiness in the lines keeps it more alive, more interesting. Kind of like speech. If you go too monotone, it's a little boring. It's not really exciting. So occasionally you gotta adjust the volume, the tone, whatever else would describe. Okay. When I'm in my own little space, I will talk a little soft, so sorry guys. But yeah, you gotta keep it kind of interesting because lights hit differently in different areas, and you gotta keep the art moving, you gotta keep the eyes moving, and texture, the shape, the volume, all that stuff. And once you kind of work on that, like paper, good or bad, long enough, it will kind of like be, you'll adjust to it, sort of like how your eyes might adjust to dark rooms. So your mind is an amazing thing. It knows what it's working with. So you don't have to think about it as much. It will become sort of background, and you can go faster. But at first you do kind of have to kind of take note, I guess. So jumping around helps because you do get to cover like all the different areas. But you know, everyone works a little differently. Maybe you kind of like not jumping around, but I do. I don't know why. I just do. I think that's a song. Okay, so yeah, so all those lines, there's always a hazard of them like bleeding together. That's harder to correct. So one way or the other, I mean, if it bleeds together, it's kind of hard for you to, I mean, nothing's impossible, you still can. If it bleeds together, it'd be really a pain to try to go in and try to define any of those. You're better off leaving it alone. Or if it's too thin, you might be able to go in and like sculpt out the lines you really want. Again, that kind of takes away the liveliness, so you might be better off leaving it alone. If you need to warm up on other areas, do that first, and then when you feel a little more confident, come in and do the finer, more delicate stuff. Okay, I think I'm just finally waking up and warming up, you guys. I think I'll go. This little fold in her sleeves, her shoulder. So am I making you guys at all curious about this story I'm going to tell? It is about I might have to stop inking and tell the story because it's really hard for me to focus. I mean, if I'm going to tell a story, I want to do it right. Just never you mind about why my index finger is pointing. It just does it. Okay, right. Sometimes I do point, sometimes I do blunt. Ask no questions, I just do. So, yeah. Let's see, how long have we been recording? Oh, a long time. Okay, so I'll just finish this part and story time, kids. Almost. Okay, one last little bit. Here we go, the grand finale. All right. Okay, that's it for the inking. Wasn't a whole lot done, but that's how slow. Okay, story time. It's not gonna be that good. Okay, so story time. I have let's see, I haven't been to conventions in a long time, and I don't go to very many, so I do have a few convention stories. And this one is This is a story from way, 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 way back in the early days. I was still living in San Diego, so I did go to a few San Diego cons. And this was when Umberto and I were still working together. I believe we were still working on Crimson. So it was over, I don't know, maybe it was 25, 26 years ago. So, I was at the convention. I was on my way. I'm going to go say hi to Umberto. He's at his, table, and I was at mine. So I'll take a little break, walk over to say hi. And there was, San Diego Con, you guys know it's super, super busy and tons of people. It's usually packed. So I was on my way. I walked over. There's tons of people in front of Umberto. I was just going to kind of peek in and just, say a quick hello. And I walk up to the table, bunch of people. This mountain-sized dude with a baseball cap was in front, and I think he was kind of helping to manage the crowd. So, and I'm like all of 2.5 feet tall. So I walked up and I'm like, I don't need anything signed. I don't really want, I'm not trying to, I just want to say a quick hello. So I walked over, I'm trying to squeeze through. And so this dude was like, he was honestly, to be honest, he was nice enough. He was, he'd said something. He was kind of like helping move people around, and he had said something to me, and all I heard was blah 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 blah, sweetheart, and yeah. So that hit me perfect, and I was just my sassy attitude rose up to meet this giant dude and said to him, like, I am not your sweetheart. So the chip on my shoulder fell real fast, and I made sure he knew not to address me as such, because I am there for business, and this is, So anyway, so that's my little story of my convention story from a long, long time ago. And I don't think he knew who I was. I didn't know who he was. I think we may have known each other by name. So this is my story of my first encounter with Scotty Young. And side note, he said, he just said he was sorry immediately. He says he didn't mean anything by it. And to be honest, I knew he didn't mean anything by it. It was kind of like, I think just, that little Southern charm thing. And just, it's not, it wasn't meant in any bad sort of way. But I was young, sassy, I don't know. And like I said, I knew that he didn't mean anything by it, but that was it. I didn't know at the time it was Scotty, though. And not that it would have made a difference. I don't think so. Anyway, but of course, this, I found out who he was later, and it was a guy that I know Umberto had been talking about, like, constantly. Scotty Young, Scotty Young, Scotty Young, da 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 da. So I only knew him by name, but then later on I found out, I was like, oh, that was Scotty Young. So that's my convention story of Scotty Young. And he has been, and still is, nothing but kind and supportive and encouraging. So first impressions, don't take it for everything. It is just a silly first impression. So there you go. There you go, Scotty. You didn't have to sweat. The attitude was all on me. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for checking out my channel. And maybe we'll do more story times, and we'll see who else has had some that I've had an interesting encounters with. Like I said, I haven't been to very many conventions, and that might be a good thing. Okay, thanks again, guys. See you next time. Bye.